What is a primary and secondary source? Today, instead of lecturing you about the differences, I am going to share a story about how they differentiate. You are the main character, and your teacher assigned a research paper on the great Martin Luther King Jr. You have to use primary and secondary sources. You weren't paying attention when the teacher was explaining it. Don't worry, it's actually pretty easy. I'm here to make it simple for you so you can get started on your paper. The first things you might be asking yourself are, how do you know the differences, and how do you look for each of them? A primary source provides direct or first-hand evidence about an event, object, person, or work of art. This includes videos, historical documents, autobiographies, and eyewitness accounts. Secondary sources describe, discuss, interpret, comment upon, analyze, evaluate, summarize, and process secondary sources. Still confused? A primary source comes from evidence of that event or person itself. A secondary source is someone writing or talking about the event from the primary source. So, what do you look for now? MLK was a well-known activist and was talked about from many. There are plenty of primary and secondary sources that you can use. He was a well-known speaker and wrote a handful of books to share his knowledge and message. So let me ask you, are these speeches and books primary or secondary sources? These can actually be both, so make sure you listen to this next part carefully. Any video of MLK giving a speech is a primary source. Why? Because someone took video evidence and recorded his speech when it happened. Any book from MLK is a primary source. He wrote it himself, and the words came from the author only. You can check primary sources by looking at the author and who wrote it. So, you might be thinking now, that's great, Mr. B, but I need secondary sources too. And there's only so many books and speeches from MLK. Well, remember, a secondary source discusses about the primary source. It is a lot easier to find secondary sources than primary sources. Books about MLK's philosophies, speeches, and accomplishments can be used for secondary sources. If you look at this picture, the author is not from MLK, but from Troy Jackson. Videos about the same topics can be used and is important if you like a visual representation. I hope this video has helped you and you can begin your research paper without sweating about the assignment.